The sun of New Terra hung low in the red-gold sky, spreading warm light across the colony streets. Children played near the edges of the main square, laughing as small robot drones floated above them like tiny metal fireflies. The colony felt peaceful, but everyone knew that peace here was thin. New Terra was under strict alien supervision by the Valari Empire. Their soldiers walked the streets, cold and silent, armor reflecting the dying light of the evening. Humans lived their lives carefully, never forgetting one unbreakable truth: never provoke the Valari. And the Valari had their own rule, whispered even among their own ranks: never harm a human child, because humans were Deathworlders, creatures from one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy, tough, hard, evolved by endless struggle. Everyone knew that hurting a human young was the same as inviting death itself, but on this day, someone forgot. A small human boy named Evan was playing near the alien control post. His drone hovered excitedly as he guided it through the air with soft gestures. The drone dipped, circled, and glowed a soft blue. Reacting to his laughter, a Valari officer, Commander Sithra, stood nearby. Her posture was stiff, her armored tail twitching with annoyance. She had never liked humans too wild, too strong, too unpredictable. In her eyes, they were trouble. The drone flew a little too close to her, only a few meters, not dangerous, not even touching her, but it was enough. Sithra turned sharply, her voice cold. "Human child, stop this at once." Evan jumped a little at her tone. He held the drone remote against his chest and stepped back slowly. He was only trying to play. He did not understand why she was angry. "I am sorry," he whispered. But Sithra's eyes narrowed. Something inside her snapped: pride, frustration, perhaps fear. She stepped forward, towering over the small boy. Her armored hand rose, shining under the neon lights. Evan flinched, confused, frightened. It was just a game before he could finish. Her hand struck him. A sharp metallic crack echoed through the square. Evan fell to the ground, hard. The drone crashed beside him, its lights flickering weakly. Blood spread on the stone floor beneath the boy's shirt. For one long second, the world stopped. People in the square froze. Humans, Valari, everyone. No one dared to breathe. A single whisper broke the silence, small, shaky, terrified. "Call the Deathworlder Guardians." That whisper changed everything. Sithra looked around, and for the first time, fear touched her face. She stepped back from the injured child. She knew the legends, she knew the warnings, but she had not believed them. Now she did. Two human civilians ran to Evan's side, but only hovered, afraid to move him. His breaths were short and weak. His eyes fluttered open for a moment, full of pain and confusion. In the distance, heavy footsteps approached, not rushed, not panicked, slow, controlled, icy. The Deathworlder Guardians had arrived. 3 human soldiers walked into the square, wearing dark armor lined with silver markings. Their helmets were off, faces calm, expressionless. Not angry, not emotional, just silent, and that silence frightened every alien present more than 100 screams ever could. The lead guardian knelt beside Evan. He checked the boy's pulse, lifted him carefully, and wiped blood from the child's cheek with a steady hand. The movement was gentle, almost father-like. Sithra swallowed hard. "I did nothing wrong," she said quickly. The child he disobeyed an order. The guardians did not look at her. They did not speak to her. They simply picked up the injured boy and turned toward their transport. Their boots made quiet echoes across the stone floor as they walked away. Each step sounded like a countdown. One Valari soldier whispered to another, voice trembling, "Why? Why are they not shouting? Why are they not angry?" The other soldier answered, barely breathing, "When humans are silent, that is when you run." But there was nowhere to run. Before leaving the square, one guardian paused and slowly turned his head towards Sithra. His voice was soft, too soft for the burning message inside it. "The council will judge this." Sithra felt ice in her veins. The crowd trembled. Even the wind seemed to stop. The guardians carried Evan into their armored vehicle. The door sealed with a heavy thud, and in that moment, every living soul on New Terra understood what was coming. Not just justice, not just punishment, but a Deathworlder response, the kind the galaxy whispered about in fear, the kind no one had survived before. And this time, the council would see it with their own eyes. The news of the incident spread through the Valari Empire faster than anyone expected. It traveled from guard to guard, from worker to officer, carried in fearful whispers. Every alien who heard the story reacted the same way, eyes wide, voices low, bodies frozen for a moment as if their minds were trying to deny what their ears had just heard. A Valari officer had struck a human child, a Deathworlder child. No one wanted to believe it. No one wanted to imagine what would follow. Inside the central command tower, Valari leaders gathered in a panic. Holographic screens flickered with information, but even the technology seemed nervous, lights shaking with every breath in the room. The commanders were large and armored, but fear made them look smaller. One general slammed his fist on the table, plates of armor rattling. "Is this confirmed?" "It is," another officer replied, her voice trembling. "Multiple witnesses. The child was taken by human guardians. He is alive, but badly injured." Silence fell again. Everyone knew the old stories. The tales whispered between empire stories of what Deathworlders became when someone harmed one of their young. Entire species had avoided war with humans simply because of those tales. And now the Valari feared they had just stepped into one of those stories. Commander Sithra stood in the center of the room, her hands shaking. She tried to keep her voice steady. "I only reacted to disrespect," she said. "The human child flew a device close to me. It was a threat." No one in the room believed her. One officer leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You struck a child, Sithra. You broke the one rule everyone obeys." "I did not think," she started. That the officer cut in is the problem. Humans think, they remember, and they respond. The room grew colder. The air felt heavier outside the command tower. The streets of New Terra were almost empty. Valari citizens stayed inside their buildings, peeking through windows, too afraid to walk. Human civilians walked quietly, helping each other, speaking little. None of them screamed or protested. None of them tried to attack. And that calm terrified the Valari more than open anger ever could. Hours passed. The sun turned orange, then red, then finally sank behind the metal towers, but the fear did not sink with it. It grew with the night. In orbit above the planet, a massive shadow appeared. Valari satellites detected it before their eyes could see it, alarms ringing through their systems. A ship, human, huge, silent. Its engines glowed like slow-burning stars. A message arrived moments later, short and cold. Human delegation arriving for council judgment. The Valari High Command felt their hearts drop. A human council delegation meant serious consequences. Humans did not send delegates for small matters. They sent them when something world-changing had happened. Sithra's knees almost buckled. She clutched the edge of the table to stay standing. "They cannot do this," she whispered. "They can," the general said, "and they will." On the surface, Valari guards formed tight security lines around the council hall. Their armor clanged nervously. Their weapons shook in their hands. No enemy had ever scared them like this. They could fight beasts, machines, entire armies, but humans were different. Humans were unpredictable, unstoppable when angered, and terrifying when calm. The time of arrival approached. Valari soldiers stood at the landing platform when the human shuttle descended quietly, almost gently. There was no roar, no dramatic entrance. The ramp lowered smoothly, as if nothing important was happening. The first human stepped out. He wore dark armor with silver edges, the symbol of the quiet guard on his chest. His face was calm, unreadable. Behind him followed 4 more guardians, each silent, each carrying the heavy presence of someone who had seen too much of the galaxy, and survived all of it. Sithra watched from behind a line of officers. Her legs shook with every step the humans took closer. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream, but she could not move, trapped by her own fear. One guardian held a small metal case in his hand. Sithra stared at it, her mind spinning. What was inside? Evidence, weapons, something worse. The lead guardian spoke softly to the Valari general. "Take us to the council chamber." Even his gentle voice felt like a knife. Everyone obeyed without argument. No alien dared to challenge a Deathworlder delegation on a matter involving a child. As they walked through the city, Valari citizens hid behind doors and windows. No one said a word. The humans walked like shadows. Calm and confident. Inside the council hall, bright lights flickered to life. Valari leaders sat in a half circle, trying to appear strong but failing. The guardians entered without hesitation. Sithra was pushed to stand before them. Her breath came fast. Her spine felt weak. She could not look into the human eyes in the room. Their calm was unnatural. Their silence felt like judgment before the judgment. One guardian placed the metal case on the table. The hall went cold. Every Valari felt something terrible waiting inside that box. Something final. The guardian stepped back, arms behind his back, posture straight and controlled. "We are ready," he said. His voice echoed through the hall. His calm felt like a storm hiding behind a door. And the Valari Empire understood. They were no longer dealing with a simple mistake. They were facing human justice, and there was no escape from it. The council chamber felt colder than ever before. The glowing symbols on the walls flickered like nervous eyes, and the silence inside the hall grew so deep that even breathing sounded too loud. The Valari leaders sat stiffly in their seats, each one pretending to be calm but failing. Their hands twitched, their tails curled, their armor plates clicked restlessly. The human guardians stood in a straight line, motionless, like statues carved from shadow and steel. Their faces held no anger, no frustration, only silence. And somehow that silence was the most frightening thing in the entire room. The Valari council speaker cleared his throat, trying to maintain control. "Humans, we welcome you for this discussion regarding the incident earlier today." The lead guardian, a tall man with dark, steady eyes, simply nodded. He did not thank them. He did not greet them. He only said in a calm voice that made every alien tense up, "We are not here for discussion." Sithra felt her heart stop. She looked at the other commanders, but none looked back at her. They all knew she had caused this. They all knew she had brought the Deathworlders to their door. One of the Valari counselors tried to speak. "We assure you, the situation is being reviewed. We, the Guardian, raised his hand, and the counselor stopped mid-sentence, voice dying in his throat. No excuses, the Guardian said softly. We have come for truth. He stepped forward and opened the metal case. Valari breath caught in their throats. Inside the case, resting on a black cloth, was not a weapon, not a threat, but something far more dangerous to a council proof. A small holoprojector, a silver data crystal, an Evans broken drone. The lead Guardian activated the projector. The room filled with the image of the attacked Sithra standing tall, striking the child, the boy falling, the blood spreading across the ground. No sound, only vision. The hall felt colder with each second of the replay. No one spoke. No one moved. When the projection ended, the Guardian closed the case with a soft click that echoed like thunder. The council speaker shifted uncomfortably. This is unfortunate. The Guardian's expression didn't change. Unfortunate is when a ship breaks. Unfortunate is when crops fail. He pointed at the hologram now frozen in the air. This is not unfortunate, this is a crime. Sithra steadied herself, he disobeyed. He flew too close. Another Guardian stepped forward, his voice quiet but sharp. He is a child. Children do not threaten. Children do not provoke you. Only someone without honor harms the young. The insult was not shouted, but spoken with calm truth, and that truth cut deeper than any blade. Sithra tried again. I acted in self-defense. No, the lead Guardian said. You acted in fear. And you hurt the one thing humans protect most. The council speaker tried to regain control. We will handle her punishment internally. The humans remained silent. The speaker's voice grew weaker. We will ensure it does not happen again. Still silence. Finally, the Guardian spoke. Your assurances mean nothing. You allowed your officer to harm a child. You allowed power to blind judgment. You allowed cruelty. His eyes moved across the entire council. No one dared to meet them. We do not trust you to judge this, he continued. We will do it ourselves. Several Valari gasped. Even the guards near the walls stepped back at that statement. Taking judgment away from the council was equal to taking power from the empire itself. This is our planet, one counselor protested weakly. Our rules, the Guardian didn't let him finish. The moment she touched a Deathworlder child, it became our rule. The chamber shook with the weight of the words. A long silence settled again, thick and suffocating. Finally, the Valari speaker said, voice barely above a whisper, what do you intend to do? The lead Guardian did not blink. We intend, he said slowly, to show the consequences. He nodded to the Guardian carrying the sealed storage unit. The man stepped forward, placed the box on the council table, and tapped the surface. The lights dimmed automatically. Everyone stared at the box. No one dared to open it. The speaker swallowed hard. What is inside? The Guardian answered simply, judgment. The box clicked open. Sithra's breath caught. Her legs almost gave out. Her mouth trembled, but no words formed. The Valari council stared into the box, eyes widening in horror, fear, and disbelief. The hall fell into complete, absolute silence. The kind that comes before something terrible changes everything. And the Valari understood that the humans did not come for negotiation. They came for justice. The death whirled away. The council chamber felt frozen as the box sat open on the table. No one dared to breathe. No one wanted to move closer, yet no one could look away. Whatever was inside that box carried a weight heavy enough to crush the room's confidence, its pride, even its authority. The humans did not speak. They simply stood there, still and calm, watching the Valari react. At last, the council speaker forced himself to lean forward. His hands shook, claws tapping lightly on the table as he gathered the courage to look inside. What he saw made every drop of blood drain from his face. Inside the box was a simple object, small, smooth, metallic. It glowed faintly, pulsing with soft blue light. It was a human memory sphere, an old piece of Deathworlder technology used only for one thing, delivering a verdict. The sphere activated on its own, floating gently above the box. The light grew brighter until it filled the hall, and an image formed in the air. Evan, the child, lay unconscious in a medbay, wrapped in bandages, breathing with difficulty. Machines beeped beside him, slow and steady. His small hand twitched weakly. The image made the chamber grow colder. Even Valari, who hated humans, felt something twist inside them because harming a child, any child, crossed a line. The Guardians watched the council carefully, reading every tiny expression without missing a single one. He lives, the lead Guardian said quietly, but the damage will stay with him for life. Another highly appeared the medical report. Broken ribs, internal bleeding, trauma to the head, a strike delivered with full force. The councillors flinched. They knew Sithra was strong. They knew Valari armor amplified strength. But seeing the results of her attack made the truth impossible to ignore. The Guardian stepped forward. This is what your officer did. He looked at Sithra for the first time since arriving. She couldn't hold his gaze. She looked down, fists trembling, her tail curling protectively around her legs. She finally understood she had not hurt an ordinary child. She had struck a Deathworlder young. The Guardian continued, his voice soft but powerful. Humans do not seek war, but we demand accountability, and if we do not receive it, He let the words hang, and the silence that followed was worse than any threat. The council speaker swallowed hard. Tell us, what judgment you request? The Guardian didn't hesitate. Commander Sithra's life belongs to the one she harmed. A deep gasp filled the room. Valari councillors looked at one another in disbelief and terror. Sithra's legs almost gave out. You cannot be serious, she whispered. The Guardian's face remained still. In human law, in Deathworlder law, harming a child is the greatest crime. It is met with the greatest response. But this is not your planet. A councillor snapped, panic replacing pride. This is Valari territory. The Guardian's eyes narrowed slightly. Then you should have protected the child under your care. The councillor sank back into his seat, defeated. Sithra shook her head, stepping backward. You want to kill me? No, the Guardian said. We do not want to. We are required to. The words settled like cold metal inside her chest. The council speaker lifted a trembling hand. The punishment is too extreme. She is an officer, a veteran. We cannot simply. You can, the Guardian interrupted. And you will. The room fell silent again. Another Guardian stepped forward and placed a second device on the table, this one shaped like a small black cube with a glowing red center. The Valari speaker recognized it instantly. A human execution record. It logged every consequence carried out by Deathworlder law. You have a choice, the lead Guardian said. You judge her with your weak excuses, or we judge her with our truth. The glowing cube pulsed, each beat like a warning. If we deliver justice, the Guardian continued, the galaxy will hear it, and they will know the Valari cannot control their own. The meaning was clear. If the council refused human judgment, the humans would carry it out themselves, publicly, brutally, with the entire galaxy watching. The council speaker looked at the cube, then at the Guardians, then at the motionless image of Evan projected above them. He finally spoke, voice cracked. What would your justice look like? The Guardian stepped forward and whispered only one sentence, one that sent a chill through every Valari in the chamber. The child decides her fate. The council chamber erupted in confused whispers. A child deciding the punishment of a military officer. It sounded insane. It sounded impossible. It sounded terrifying. But the humans were serious. Sithra collapsed to her knees, trembling. You can't let a human child decide. He will. The Guardian cut her off. He will choose what she never gave him. And what is that? The speaker asked quietly. The Guardian looked at the council, then at Sithra, his voice cold as ice. A chance. The chamber fell quiet once again. Every Valari feeling the weight of the moment. Human judgment had arrived, and the next decision would change everything. The chamber remained painfully silent after the Guardian's final words. The idea of giving a human child, an injured one, the power to decide the fate of a Valari officer felt unreal, almost absurd. Yet no one dared question it. Not when the humans stood like unbreakable statues. Not when the air itself felt heavy with their judgment. The council speaker finally forced himself to stand. We request time, he said softly. We must consider. You will consider nothing. The lead Guardian replied calmly. The child has already been asked. A shock moved through the room like a wave. Even the Guardians behind him seemed to stand straighter, as if they themselves respected the importance of what came next. The Guardian tapped the side of the memory sphere. A new image appeared, Evan lying in a medical bed, pale but awake. His voice was weak, but steady. A doctor leaned close to him in the recording. Evan, they need your answer. What do you want us to do with Sith? The boy's eyes blinked slowly. He looked hurt, confused, exhausted, but he was conscious and thinking. He didn't speak at first. He simply stared at the ceiling, breathing deeply, as if gathering courage. The Valari Council held their breath. Then Evan spoke. I don't want revenge, he whispered. I want safety. His voice was soft, but the words hit the council harder than any weapon. The doctor asked gently, can you explain? Evan nodded slowly. If I say she should die, nothing changes. Another alien might do the same thing one day. Another human kid could get hurt. Or worse. He swallowed painfully. I want no child, human or alien, to ever go through this again. His eyes glistened with emotion. So, if she understands what she did, if she truly learns, then maybe no other kid will get hurt. The chamber erupted in whispers. Even the humans looked surprised for a moment. Sithra stared at the floating image, disbelief flooding her eyes. She had expected hatred, rage, a death sentence instead. A child she nearly killed was asking for something far heavier, accountability. The doctor in the recording spoke again. So your verdict, Evan, is to spare her life? The boy nodded. Yes, but only if she stands in front of everyone and admits it, and promises never to hurt any child again, human or alien. His voice trembled, but his next words were steady. And she has to mean it. The recording froze on Evan's tired face. The memory sphere lowered gently back into the box. Silence returned to the hall, but this time it felt different. Not cold, not empty. Heavy, moral, unavoidable. The Guardian turned toward Sith. The child you harmed is stronger than you, kinder than you. He asks not for your death, but for your honesty. Sithra's breath trembled. Shame clawed at her chest. She looked at the ground, unable to meet anyone's gaze. The council speaker exhaled slowly. So, the judgment is confession and vow. No, the guardian said, the judgment is responsibility. He stepped closer, his voice soft but firm. You will stand before the entire Valari population. You will admit what you did. You will tell the truth, no lies, no excuses. And you will swear a life oath that no child under your watch will ever be harmed again. The council gasped. A life oath was no small thing. Breaking one meant exile, dishonor, sometimes even execution under Valari law. Sithra's throat tightened. Her entire career, her honor, her pride, everything was crumbling. But she also knew there was no escape. Evan had spared her life, but he had also demanded the one thing she feared most, the truth. Slowly, painfully, she nodded. I will do it. The guardian bowed his head once, respectful not to her, but to the child who made the decision. Then justice is served. The council didn't argue. They couldn't. Not after hearing the boy's words. Not after witnessing the human's calm, controlled power. One of the guardians stepped forward with a small recorder. This will be played across Valari space, he said. For every soldier, every officer, every citizen. They will know the truth of what happened here, and they will know the promise you make today. Sithra's body shook as she accepted the device. She had faced battles. She had fought monsters. She had survived wars, but nothing frightened her more than standing before her own people and admitting the truth. The guardians began to leave the chamber. Their boots echoed loudly as they walked, each step carrying a sense of finality. The Valari parted silently, allowing them to pass without resistance as they reached the doors. The lead guardian paused and looked back at the council. You are fortunate, he said softly. The child asked for mercy. Humans are not always this merciful. The doors closed behind them, and the Valari understood that the galaxy had changed. Not because of violence, because of the voice of a single child. The next morning came with a heavy sky. Dark clouds hung over New Terra as if the world itself understood what was about to happen. The Valari Empire broadcast channels flickered on across the city. Screens lit up in homes, shops, stations, even military outposts. A message repeated on every one of them. Mandatory viewing. Commander Sithra's public address begins shortly. Valari citizens gathered around the screens, confused and uneasy. They had heard rumors, whispers about the incident, but none knew the full truth. None knew why the humans had arrived in such cold silence. None knew what Sithra had done, but they were about to learn. In the council hall, Sithra stood alone on a raised platform. No armor, no weapons. Her officer badge had been removed. She wore only a plain uniform, the kind given to soldiers awaiting judgment. Her hands trembled at her sides. The hall was filled with Valari leaders, guards, and observers. The human guardian stood at the back, silent as ever, watching her with unreadable faces. They were not here to threaten. They were here to witness. A camera drone hovered in front of Sithra, blinking red to show the live broadcast had begun. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to gather courage she wasn't sure she had. Her pride wanted to scream, to deny everything, to protect her own name. But the memory of Evan's soft, forgiving voice replayed in her mind. If she understands what she did, then maybe no other kid will get hurt. For the first time in her life, Sithra felt small. She opened her eyes and began, My name is Commander Sithra of the Valari Empire. Her voice cracked, but she continued anyway. Yesterday, I harmed a human child. Every Valari watching flinched. The truth was like a stone dropping into a silent lake, heavy, impossible to ignore. I struck him without true reason. I let anger guide my hand. I broke the rule that protects all young human or Valari. She paused, swallowing hard. Shame burned behind her eyes. I nearly killed an innocent child. A gasp spread through the hall. Even counselors lowered their heads. Valari parents watching from home pulled their own children close. Sithra continued, voice trembling. I stand here because the child I harmed chose mercy over my death. He gave me a chance I did not deserve. Her eyes glistened. So I make this oath, with my life bound to it. She placed a hand over her chest. I swear that I will never harm a child again. I swear to protect all young human, Valari, and every species under the sun. I swear to teach this rule to every soldier I command. She lowered her head. And if I ever break this vow, may the galaxy judge me without mercy. Silence filled the hall. Not cold silence, heavy and silence, the kind that made even the proudest warrior stop and think. The broadcast ended. Across Valari space, people sat speechless. Soldiers debated in shock. Parents cried. Children asked questions. The Empire had never seen one of its own officers stand so exposed, so honest, so humbled, and in that moment, something changed. The Valari Empire, known for its discipline and pride, finally understood the truth humans had lived by for generations. Strength is not shown by how you fight. Strength is shown by how you protect. When the camera drone powered off, Sithra stepped down from the platform. Her legs felt weak, but something inside her felt lighter, like a burden had finally been pulled from her chest. The guardians approached her. She flinched at first, expecting anger or judgment. Instead, the lead guardian nodded once. The child will recover, he said softly. Your oath honors his strength. Sithra's eyes widened. The words felt like forgiveness, a type she had never received before. The Guardians turned to leave, their mission complete. The doors opened, sunlight breaking into the hall, casting long shadows behind them. Before stepping out, the lead Guardian looked back at the Valari Council. "Remember this," he said. "Deathworlders are feared for their power, but respected for their mercy." With that, the humans walked into the light, boarding their shuttle with silent confidence. The ship rose into the sky, engines glowing like faint stars, and disappeared into orbit. Back in the medical bay, Evan slept peacefully. Unaware of the storm his small voice had changed on the council hall, Sithra stood alone, shaken but transformed, and across the galaxy, a new story began to spread, not of violence, not of revenge, but of the day a human child saved an empire from its own pride. Days passed on New Terra, but the shock of the incident did not fade quickly. Humans and Valari both lived their lives more carefully now, watching each other with new eyes. The fear that once sat between the two species had shifted into something else, something uncertain, something waiting to grow into trust or collapse back into conflict. In the human medical wing, Evan finally woke up, his eyes opened slowly, blinking at the warm light above him. His mother rushed to his side, tears spilling as she kissed his forehead. His father stood behind her, holding her shoulders, trying to stay strong even though his eyes glimmered with emotion. Evan winced slightly. Is she okay?" he whispered. That his parents froze. He didn't ask about himself. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask if the aliens were punished. He asked about her. The doctor stepped closer, touched the boy's hand gently, and nodded. "She is alive, and she made a promise because of you." Evan let out a tiny breath of relief. "I didn't want her to die," he murmured. "I just wanted her to stop hurting people." His mother wiped her eyes and tried to smile. "You have a brave heart, Evan, a bigger one than most adults." But Evan shook his head softly. "I'm not brave. I was scared." His father leaned forward. "Son, courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is choosing kindness even when you're afraid." The boy smiled weakly. "I hope she keeps her promise." Meanwhile, in the Valari capital station orbiting New Terra, Sithra struggled with her new life. She was no longer Commander Sith. Her rank had been stripped, her authority gone. Many Valari avoided her, some out of fear, some out of disgust, some out of respect they didn't know how to express. But she carried on. Every day, she repeated the oath she made. Every day she felt the weight of her mistake, and every day she remembered the small human boy who showed more mercy than an empire. One afternoon, she received a message from the High Council. Report to the chamber. Her stomach tightened. Was this more punishment? Was the empire done with her? But she did as ordered. Inside the chamber, the councillors appeared solemn. Their eyes followed her carefully. She stood straight, trying to show respect even though her heart pounded in her chest. "Sithra," the senior councillor began, "you understand that your action nearly created a disaster between our empire and the humans?" "Yes, councillor," she answered quietly. "And you understand that your words changed much more than your mistake?" She hesitated, unsure how to reply. "I only spoke the truth." A long silence followed. Then the councillor continued. "Because you spoke the truth, the humans have not demanded your death. Because you humbled yourself, they accepted your oath. And because of this, the empire has decided on a new path." Sithra lifted her head slightly, confused. "We will create a new program," the councillor said. "A protection law for all young across our star systems. And we want you to help build it." Sithra's breath caught. "You want me to help?" she whispered. "Yes," the councillor replied. "Who better to teach others than the one who learned the lesson the hardest way?" Sithra felt her throat tighten. She bowed deeply, emotion shaking through her. "I will give everything I have," she promised. "I will not fail again." The councillor's stern face softened for the first time. "Do not fail the children," he replied. "Not ours, not theirs." Back on New Terra, the human guardians received news of the new Valari protection program. A rare smile appeared on the lead guardian's face. "Maybe," he said quietly, "things will be different now." Evan's father nodded. "Because of one mistake?" "No," the guardian replied. "Because of one child who forgave." Later that evening, Evan sat by the window of the medical bay, watching the sunset paint the sky in orange and blue. He held his small robot drone in his hands, repaired and glowing softly. A nurse walked by and smiled. "Feeling better?" Evan nodded.
"Yeah."
"I think everything is going to be okay." But the nurse laughed gently. "Oh, little one, nothing is ever simple in this galaxy." Evan looked out again at the horizon. "I know," he whispered, "but sometimes, one small thing can change everything." Behind him, monitors beeped softly. Outside, the human and Valari flags fluttered together in the wind. And far above, ships from both species crossed paths peacefully. A future once full of fear now held a spark. Small but bright. A spark started by a mistake, saved by a child, and carried by an empire willing to learn.